What up, y'all? You know what time it is. Last week on Instagram. So let's jump into these four videos we're going to be looking at. So our first one is from my interview with Dr. Mari Cerda. I think I finally
So
said it
if you're
right.
going to be a culturally responsive coach,
So I actually put a story up about this post, and my thing is like when you have those kids who are supremely talented, at least on the guy side, you like the thing they have to become to reach their talent. And this is kind of how I compete, how I see the world too. Excuse me, guys. Is there's accomplishing your goal and not accomplishing your goal, right? And like second place is not accomplishing your goal, right? We can do that at home, right? If we're gonna do this, and I know what you're capable of, we're gonna do it the right way, right? We ain't gonna cut corners. Like every detail, we're doing it right because we're not gonna be perfect. We're gonna mess up, and we have to try and do it perfectly, knowing to give ourselves room for mistake, room for error, right? So at least in my experience with boys, and myself included, right? I had a basketball coach who really brought me out of my shell. Is like to get them to their potential, you do have to bring them out of their shell, right? You kind of got to break them of some bad habits of lack of belief. And with girls, I always wonder like how to do it, right? How would you do it? Because they got to deal with chick politics. I'd say that's probably the biggest one, right? They got to deal with other girls, and if you have, like I said in my post, we had two girls with Olympic talent for in the U.S. 12-year-old girls who were showing like great promise in spite of what they weren't doing, right? And then we had when they all turned 13, they were all in the same age group. When they all turned 13, one of the girls, she didn't swim breaststroke the whole summer, and then I took over the group, or I had like a few practices to take over, maybe a few weeks, right before Stags. And if you don't know, that's like the LOC champs before state champs, when all five of the LOCs in Texas come together and race. And so Stags, we're working with her the week of the meet, right? That's my first week working with her. And I'm like, okay, look, this is how you're gonna win swim 200 breaststroke, right? And I basically take her through timing. I'm like, first 50, you glide 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, pull, right? Don't go 3, 1,000 because you're going to overglide. So she does it 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3. And I'm like, you're going to be, I forget if I said pulling harder. I think I said kicking as hard as you can, right? And then gliding through it. And I was like, and then you're going to do the same things for the second 50. And the third 50, you're going to go, like, you're going to build to 1,000 or 1,002. Right, so first she starts off 1,000, 2, 1,003, 1,000, 2, 1,003, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 1,002, 1,002, right, over the course of that 50. And she just wrecks shot, drops like 20 seconds. Like, it was crazy. After not swimming breaststroke the whole summer. And she's like this super skinny girl, big feet, big hands, lanky, long legs. And it's like, and she's a British national. And to make their junior team, I think it's like 210. So we got this girl going like 218. She probably would have went 216 at state championships, but she had a head case episode and freaked out and overswam her race, which is, I'll tell you that story in a second, but she probably would have went 216. She's definitely capable of it at 13, right? After not swimming breaststroke. And it's like, oh dang, like you put some weight on this kid, some strength on this kid, and actually have her train breaststroke, she can actually do something. She could like 210, going to her British trials or whatever and trying for the English junior national team is like a serious thing that she can accomplish, right? Wow, I really don't like this camera. It's like making my voice slow. Oh man, I gotta figure that out. Oh God, I don't like that. And granted, like I had, great relationships with their families, with the kids. They later told me after I left, they were like, yeah, we knew you cared about it like as people, not just as swimmers versus the other coach. But, that's another story for another time. But it's just like, I didn't have the confidence to like have that sit down and be like, because the sprint freestyler who at 12, like after 3 weeks of swimming with us, went like 28.3, like she had the juice. Shout out to Ariana. That was her name. I forget her last name, but she had the juice. She could have really been something. And I mean, they all could have, but she really could have. she probably had the best chance of all three to really do something. And like I remember we were at Stags, and she goes, we're talking about 100 free race strategy, right? And she goes out 134 and comes back 30 point. And it's just like, what are you doing, homegirl? Like, she just didn't know what she was doing out there, you know? I guess I'm saying, like, she had a ton of potential. I think that's when she had turned 13 also. But anyway, it's just like if you want to do what you say you wanted to do and what you're capable of, like they said in the video, like, I'm gonna have to break you. And I don't know, like, it's not even about the breaking them of their habits to make them into the championships. It's like, is that good for a girl? What does that do to a girl's development, dealing with relationships, as Dr. Mahdi said? And I didn't articulate it at all very well when I asked her the question, but that's what I wanted to talk to her about is it necessary? If it is, how to go about doing it, how to go about doing it as a male coach, and how to go about doing it in a way that teaches them life skills and life lessons that they can carry with life without, you know, like doing damage to their mental or emotional state in the long term, you know. So yeah, I kind of dropped the ball on that question. But anyway, let's get to the next one. All right. Let's talk about this video. So I really like this video. I saved it like as soon as I saw it go down, and, you know, got a little compliment, you know, see right there. Boom, boom. Shout out to Brett. Hopefully they can understand you, master. You hear that? I'm a master. But if you watch Brett's, like, how he's moving, you can see that it's all like forward and calculated. Like, he's not just moving without thought. Right here, showing his examples, right? And you can see like how he's like constantly like making like minor adjustments to his posture, because like that's what it is. Like, he's thinking. Whereas this other guy, you know, shout out to him. I think he had some Olympic rings. You can see him like swinging around his foot, whereas Breck's trying to like walk through his hips. So like what we do with Rakely is like, those are the leakages, right, that happen, right? So I would say like literally that exact thing that Brett was doing, I tried to explain to some swimmers when I started, to our sprinters at the team I first started at, and it took me a year to teach it to them, and then I wasn't coaching them after that year, and it was like, okay, or no, I was, but we got some new swimmers, and it's like, okay, I can't take another year teaching them this, and that was kind of like the beginning of Rakely, because it was like, okay, I need a system, so I only have to teach them a few things, the same way that, you know, you get to college swimming with a guy like Brett at Auburn or Dave Durden at Cal, and it's only a few things they got to teach you, right? Because hopefully you've learned all the details up to that point about being a great sprinter. So I needed a system, and that's kind of the inception, I guess, point of me thinking about systems as far as technique goes. But like, you see a lot of different stroke techniques that I try to teach these kids that I learned as a swimmer. You see these same leakages pop up, right? Where this guy is swimming wide and swinging around his anchor foot instead of swimming through his hip connection. So then it's like, okay, well, I can't talk through it and do this one-on-one type of thing like Brett's doing. So it's like, okay, I need a drill that makes sense to everybody, that gives everybody as close to the same outcome as possible, and make sure that they get the right motor skills. So that's why I love this video, because it was like a fantastic opportunity to see how easy, like, I think this guy is an Olympian, and you can see how easy it is to have leakages while learning world-class skills if you're not really paying attention. So we try to fill that gap. And don't forget, I'm a master. I haven't been able to respond to anything because I got a bunch of stuff on my back end. But the answer to this one, guys, is Katie is doing the high elbow catch vertical forearm, and the other guy is doing the regular vertical forearm. And the way you can tell is if the arm goes around the side or if it stays in front of the body, right? So when you do your early vertical forearm, first of all, you have to make sure you have good posture, and you have to be able to push your shoulders out of their sockets. If you do it in your socket, there's no way that you can do Katie's one. Like, I can feel pinching there. And if you actually do it, I'm going to put my arm underneath my shoulder. The only way you could get into a vertical forearm is your shoulder would have to slide out here. So now you're catching like halfway through your pull instead of pushing your shoulder out. And now you can catch outside and out front, right? So that's kind of, and we're versus Katie's, right? When we do our sprinting high elbow catch, right? We back up. It's here. When I do my sprinting high elbow catch, I'm going to pop my elbow on top, right? This is actually in my drill progression where you learn how to, keep your palm down so you can get that surface area. And then we go palm up on some, elbow on top, palm to the elbow, and then being able to change, right? But I'm going to pop my elbow on top. And the thing is, when that happens, a lot of times people's hand goes with it as they get their elbow up, right? Oh, sorry, I just messed up. I can't even do it, right? And this is why I always say thumbs down on the butterfly, because it makes it easier for them to get their elbow on top and avoid drag. Whereas this is the area we're trying to catch with. I don't want my swimmers in fly catch or recovering with that area exposed, right? So just getting your thumb on top. Anyway, let's get back to the catch. When you're here, right, and we do our high elbow catch, we're trying to squeeze in our shoulder line and get on top of our ribs to make sure our energy is going in a straight line down the pool, right? And that is where the power is, right? Now, once again, the shoulder has to be pushed out, and then you got to make sure you pull correctly. I learned this the hard way when I was learning David's. He was trying to teach me this stuff. Is I would do the catch, and then when I pull, you have to push down. But I was pushing down and back, and you can see how my whole shoulder just like rolls out of the socket, and I was feeling like the pain in my shoulder. So the posture and pulling the right way is important, because if I push its shoulder out and then I pull in front of me where I'm supposed to, my shoulder's going to slide back in its socket. So these details are very important. But like I said with Katie, the high elbow catch vertical forearm, and this is where you see Ian Thorpe doing, Park Tae-won, Bobby Fink, is they're inside their shoulder line, but their hand crosses over. Like that's how it would feel. Like they're almost bringing it to the other side. Because when they're swimming and they get here, boom, and they catch, and it comes in as they're rolling to flat, right? Because it's going to come over the top, so they're going to be immediately turning. Whereas a sprinter, you got to rotate a little late. Their arm's going to come over. They're going to go into their catch on the inside, and then boom, right? That hand is staying in that shoulder line as they go, right? So, and because it's here, it stays closer to the pectoral muscle, which means more power, versus if I'm here, the shoulder has, or the bicep has to slide wide, even though I'm catching way out in front. So that's the difference, right? One of them is high power, but still enough lack of power because the bicep does have to, move outwards. But the only difference is bicep stays in shoulder line and bends to the other side versus it bending outside, right? Inside, outside. And that's the difference between the two. This guy's one is significantly weaker, but it is far less stress on the body. He could probably get his tempo up a lot higher if he wanted to. I would. And that would put more oxygen in his body to combat the lactate he's building. So it's like a real advantage if you swim with it correctly. And he won't wear out his muscles because, he's swimming wide. Versus Katie right here, you can see the difference pulling in that shoulder line. Bicep stays pretty tight. It doesn't slide out. So that's the difference between the two. Katie's got the powerful one, the high elbow catch vertical forearm. All right, so here's our last one. So if those of you who are familiar with the American Athlete Development Model, the ADM, there's a section at the very bottom where they talk about if you do these sets and these types of practices in it's 15 minutes or 30 minutes based on, or 40, 50 based on your times you're trying to achieve. I don't know what I got, but ADD or some type of autism or something, but things that are very important and pertain to my interests, I can remember everything. If it's not, I'll fall asleep in class, which happened often, as I'm sure you can imagine. But so in playing basketball and being a multi-sport athlete, track, football for a little bit, is I remember all the muscle systems I was working. And I remember when you're in the game too long and those thighs start burning, what's the secondary groups you turn to get the power, right? Or how you push harder to make sure your thighs are still explosive, right? So things like this from other sports, like you're seeing right here, I took this stuff and I was like, okay, doing moves like this are groin, glutes, quads, deceleration. So we would take our strength training and train these things to the point that I would feel them as the best player on my team who never came out the game when the fatigue settles in and you got to figure out a way to still be active and be counted on, we would design our strength training to emulate that, right? So, and these are with like BB kids. And the reason why I bring up the ADM is we had kids who couldn't make their required sets. So I think for like 10 and unders, right, it says like 30 minutes of these intervals, and they should be able to go like, I think it's AAA or quad A times, right? We had kids who couldn't go those times, couldn't make those sets, going AAA and quad A times because they had the athleticism or the artificial athleticism from our workouts. So that's why, like, the point of this, like, I know it kind of, you read it and it's just like, whatever. If you know all the muscle systems that this is engaging, and then the secondary, like, power source, literal power source or muscle source, once they fatigue, that's where you start outperforming the ADM. And that's a big thing about our Rakely content is we teach the athletic movement of the kick. Bend this, flex this, bounce the knee like this, because those muscle groups you can then train in your strength training and get like have a direct impact and control your kids' improvement. Do this skill to get better. Okay, you're getting better. You want to go even faster? Make sure you're focused on this exercise in dry land, this specific one. So it's all about, athlete empowerment, putting the ability to control their outcomes in their own hands. And that's the purpose of Rakely. Give the kids the ability to control their outcome. Even the kids who you don't think got a chance, and let them see that they can work hard and achieve. Let them build that confidence, right? So, and because you know the stuff works, you can focus on them as a person instead of hoping you need to do the set or show up to practice because we need to go this time. Like, they're going to go the time. They're training their athleticism, and then their strength training is training their athleticism in the way it would if they were a multi-sport athlete. So that's it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, turn on the notifications, and share this stuff, man. Spread it around the web. We're trying to take over the game and get people the information they need so everybody can have a chance to improve. So once again, thank you guys. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, share. Peace.